Welcome to RANsquawk's e-morning briefing for Monday the 29th of June 2009. So just running through some of the weekend and overnight news just through 9 o'clock now. Starting off firstly in Asia, did see Japanese industrial output jump some 5.9%, which was a shade lower than expectations, but the same reading as last month, and matching April's biggest gain in half a century, as car electronics production pulled out of a deep slump, but the outlook remains somewhat murky according to analysts, with the effects of government stimulus expected to wear off soon. One of the main things to come out from the weekend is further discussions in terms of the US dollar's role as a reserve currency. Did see some talk between China and Brazil saying they're working on currency agreements in terms of exports and imports to be settled there, those deals in local currencies rather than that of the US dollar. We've also seen Argentina central bank governor saying the dollar should share the global stage in terms of its role against regional currencies, with the Russian central bank, whose reserves account or have the world's third largest in terms of FX reserves. They've called for the world to become less dependent on the dollar. All pretty negative and downbeat. However, we did see the dollar index trade higher overnight and into the European entrance, predominantly on the back of some comments out of the PBOC, their governor Zhu, who pointed out that FX reserve policy always quite stable and consistent, targeting safety and return, and also commented that there would be no sudden changes. So a lot of that downward talk or downbeat talk on a dollar by some of the likes of China, Brazil and Argentina, as well as Russia, somewhat countered by PBOC's governor there. Also, one of the major things to come out over the weekend's press is further commentary out of the ratings agency Standard & Poor's. They've commented on the UK in the Sunday Telegraph, saying that Britain's national debt will quadruple to peaks only ever seen in the wake of World War II, unless the government takes drastic steps in terms of the mounting pensions and ageing crisis in the UK. Obviously, this comes just a month after we saw Standard & Poor's place the UK on Outlook Watch negative. So something to keep a very close eye on. Elsewhere in the US, comments out of an Obama advisor saying they're not ready to back a second stimulus, pretty much similar to what we heard from White House officials last week. And also senior White House advisor Roma being pretty upbeat on the US economy in an FT interview this morning. Elsewhere in geopolitical matters, we've seen Japanese and South Korea leaders agree yesterday that Pyongyang's nuclear moves are unacceptable, and they said they're willing to strengthen their cooperation between each other in terms of countering North Korea. And just taking a look in commodities briefly, WTI crude futures, we were trading lower with some strength in dollar index this morning. However, prices have bounced back. We're pretty much unchanged at the moment, around $69.50. Over the weekend, noting we did see 4 fractions of the men group in principle welcoming an amnesty offer from the country's president, saying they will not attack any more oil pipelines. However, pretty quick to turn around. We have seen a Royal Dutch Shell pipeline attacked this morning already, and that as well has aided prices to bounce off of negative back to around unchanged on the session. Elsewhere, just a quick look in the UK markets. Aside from that S&P story I've already mentioned, ongoing disputes between the regulators in terms of the FSA, the bank and the Treasury. Alistair Darling will deny Mervyn King the crucial powers he's demanding to prevent another financial meltdown until after the general election, wrote the weekend's press. We've also seen business head Mandelson on the wires, as Peter Mandelson saying Britain keeps financial regulation in the hands of the beefed up FSA rather than transfer the powers to the Bank of England. Other than that, another UK story that has got some attention is the UK scheme liabilities are 85% of GDP. That's the UK public pension fund liabilities aspiring way above those of the peers US and Canada. At the moment, we are seeing gilt futures on life outperforming quite substantially against their European counterparts. Gilt futures up around 56 or so. Highlighted some of that weakness in the press articles. We are moving in towards month end, and the IBOT sterling sovereign month end extension in the UK is seen much larger at plus 0.33 years. And we're also looking ahead now to this afternoon, when we'll see a Bank of England reverse auction in the 10 to 25 year basket. Quick look in equities, the FTSE CAC and DAX, they're up around 1% at the moment after opening lower. They have managed to move into positive territory. Just a couple of articles I'd like to point your attention to. For Vodafone, they're considering an offer to buy Deutsche Telekom's T-Mobile UK units. Vodafone are seen slightly higher. Of course, this move will open up or increase their market share in the UK markets, so seen as a positive for the company. Elsewhere for Anglo American, they're stepping up their search for a new chairman, the likes of the former Rio chairman Jim Ling and also Sir John Parker, the chairman of National Grid. They've been approached apparently for the position. And elsewhere, Chinolco and at least one unidentified Middle Eastern investor have been approached about a partnership that could see them inject hundreds of millions of dollars into MMX, Anglo's Brazilian iron ore business, according to Weekend Press. Anglo seen just marginally higher at the moment alongside their other FTSE mining peers. And finally, Lloyds Banking Group, they're outperforming the UK bank stocks at the moment. They had a positive note out of Goldman Sachs this morning. They've been added to Goldman's conviction buy list. They're trading up at the moment around 3.5%. Just take a look then at the other data we'll see. We'll have confidence figures out of Eurozone at 10 o'clock. However, it's pretty quiet in terms of US numbers, so likely to be pretty much a sentiment-driven day with expectations still heading into the holiday shortened week for the US players. And then we'll be eyeing that reverse auction for the Bank of England at 3 o'clock this afternoon.